Speaking of the Democrats and some of the weird things they're saying these days, I want to play you a little grab from a Democratic Congresswoman named Delia Ramirez. Now, have a look at this.
Porque yo soy guatemalteca con mucho orgullo, primero que soy americana.
And if you didn't get the subtitles there, if your Duolingo Spanish is a little rusty, she said that she is proud to be a Guatemalan and represents Guatemala before America. Now, this is somebody who's taken an oath to serve in the United States Congress. This seems just absolutely beyond the pale and almost sort of reminds me of Teddy Roosevelt's warning about hyphenated Americans.
Yeah, James. So the gathering that this congresswoman was speaking at is called the Pan-American Congress, and it's a gathering of far-left politicians and activists from all over North and South America. There were 5 Democratic Congress people participating in this gathering. She was one of 5. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib were 2 of the others. And you know, the idea that you can be a member of the United States Congress and say, I'm a proud Guatemalan. She was born in America, you know. She says, I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. You know, this would have been unthinkable just a few years ago, and yet we now have a significant element of the Democratic Party which is openly anti-American.
Well, and John, you have a similar problem, I think, in Minnesota with people like Ilhan Omar, who you just mentioned. You know, these representatives of Somali descent who say that they're actually really more about representing Somalia in the Congress or in their particular legislative bodies versus all of their constituents in America.
So Ilhan Omar's family was chased out of Somalia. She spent a part of her youth in a refugee camp in Kenya. She emigrated to America. When she was very young, she went into politics, won a seat in the Minnesota legislature, ran for the Minnesota House, where she served now, I don't know, 4 or 5 terms as a congresswoman. And yet she said just recently, America is one of the worst places in the world. Now, how you can escape from Somalia and say America is one of the worst places in the world when Americans have elected you to Congress? You know, I mean, this is just unbelievable stuff.
Well, as Donald Trump would say, many such cases. Hey, also, John, though, while I've got you, I also want to talk about, you know, all of these attacks on Donald Trump for their moves to have another census, perhaps, redraw congressional districts so that they don't just, you know, create these sort of racially based gerrymanders and all of that sort of thing. Yet James Carville, the legendary Democrat advisor who basically foisted Bill Clinton on the world, well, he's called on Democrats to save democracy by essentially rigging the system. Have a listen to this.
The Democrats win the presidency, the Senate, and the House in 2028, which is not impossible. I don't know if you say likely or possible. I don't know what word you know, but it's certainly not impossible. They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states. They're going to have to, the Congress does give, the Constitution gives Congress power over federal elections. I don't think they can redistrict, but they're things they're going to do. They're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do it, and they may have to expand the court to 13 members.
So to translate from the Cajun there, he was basically talking about, you know, packing the Supreme Court, adding Democrat states. It seems like our democracy is one of those things that really only runs one way, John.
James, you have to understand the Democrats' lexicon. Democracy is when a Democrat wins an election. A threat to democracy is when a Democrat loses an election. So, you know, in the run-up to the 2024 election, I mean, think about this. They repeatedly tried to put Donald Trump in prison on the most absurd charges imaginable in numerous states. Wherever they had the power, they tried to actually keep him off the ballot for the 2024 election. But they don't consider those things a threat to democracy because they help the Democrats to win. And you know, we've been hearing this about adding more states and packing the Supreme Court with new justices and so on for some years now. And to be honest, James, I really believe that if the Democrats did control the House and the Senate and the presidency in 2028, they would probably do those things.
And what is your reaction, John, as a lawyer, just to the idea that that the census really should be redone because it has included illegal aliens who I don't think the founders really anticipated being counted for the purposes of apportionment.
Well, the founders never imagined that we could have, 15, 20 million illegal aliens living in this country. I actually wrote a long analysis of this issue on Powerline earlier today. The short version, James, is that I think the way the Constitution is worded, referring to all persons, not citizens, but persons, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to legally exclude illegals from the census and therefore from part of congressional apportionment. That's what the issue really is. I think what we need to do is get as many as possible of those illegal aliens out of the country so that issue doesn't arise. Any census, this would be a mid-decennial census. It would really be unofficial. It could not be used under the law to reapportion congressional seats in 2026. You hear a lot of commentary, a lot of Democrats going crazy about that. No, that isn't possible. What is possible is to take a census that would reflect how many people are in America who are not illegal aliens and where do they live and what would our Congress look like and what would our Electoral College look like if only those people were being counted. And I see that really as a political move to keep the focus on these issues as opposed to a legal gambit.
Fair enough, John. It sounds like it's a very long game that they're playing. Thank you so much for your time.